Hey guys, T-Fox here. So today we're going to be talking about Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. So this is a review for telling you exactly should you buy this game or not. As a major Zelda fan, that part of me just says completely yes, without any question. As a Dynasty Warrior fan and Sengoku Musou or Shin Sengoku Musou Japanese version, I also say yes. So what they did with this game here is that for anyone that hasn't played, well, that did play the Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild takes place 100 years basically after this. 100 years. So throughout the game we play and then you get all the secrets and you hear what's happening and this and that, but a lot of behind it goes back into the fans, what we think about what happened 100 years ago. So we get a little glimpse in here and there, so we don't necessarily know what happened precisely. This game tells you what happened in a way, but it shows you exactly how Hyrule was when 100 years ago, some of the character, how they were 100 years ago. For example, you can see here Impa, the way she looks very young 100 years ago. Then you have, her older sister Pura that likes to say Yankee. So she's we see how she was 100 years ago. Same thing with Robbie and everyone, and you see how the castle town is, how the surrounding, how everyone is, and you get to play as some of the beloved character like Mifa, Daruk, and Naburos as well. And of course you have also Rivali, the cocky, which race is it from again? Rito, the cocky Rito who talks like he's better than everyone. Granted, he is good. He is very good. So this story here, the way they made it, the graphic looks almost identical to the one from Best of Breath of the Wild. So there's a reason why, because I do find that Breath of the Wild looks slightly better, just slightly in certain places. And the reason for that is because I think it's because how fast-paced this game is. So the graphic needs to follow, but you don't even notice it like at all. So you see Link, how he gets the Master Sword. You see how they get chosen as champions, and you get to play as Mifa. You see, because in Breath of the Wild, when you read or you talk to certain people around in Zora Domain, they say that how Mifa was very skilled with a trident. So I always thought of Mifa as this sweet little Zora that really loves Link, and I see her rocking around with her trident, but I could not imagine that sweet Zora to fight with a trident the way she does. And then when you actually play as her, you're like, okay, yes, I want more of that. Same thing for Impa. Daruk, I love the way that he uses that, the way that they put his skills and the way that he uses it. I wasn't a too fan of Rivali and the Rito because just that their controls is a little bit wonky personally, but everything is good, The Gerudo as well. They're the way that the Gerudo chief, the way that she fights. I think actually personally it was one of my, after Link, it was like my second character, because just the way she moves and then she blocks and then with her lightning and everything. So that game puts all into perspective, and it removes all the blind spot that we had about, oh wait, but we don't know what happened here, because in Breath of the Wild you come across a lot of ruins everywhere, and then you have the names of those ruins. I always thought like, oh, how was it before? Was it good? Was it bad? How did it look like? And then you get to see it. So it's it's a kind of like Musou type hack and slash. So when you are in an environment, you get, a lot of enemy comes at you. You have to fight them off, and you get killed like a bunch of them. I took time to like clear enemy and just stay there and just look around and looking at the buildings, looking at, thinking people live there. And the music in this game is perfect. They got it spot on. The music is perfect. Sometimes I would just leave the menu there so I can just listen to the music. I give this game personally a 10 out of 10. Yeah, you're gonna say, well, you're biased because you love Zelda. I do love Zelda, and Hyrule Warrior, the first one that came out like on Wii U, and then later on Switch, was good, but nowhere near this one, because the first one didn't have any attachment to it, attachment for the player, because the main story wasn't a story that we knew about. It was just a story that, okay, so this is this is person Zelda, and this is the hero, and then he gets the sword, and blah blah blah. Oh yeah, you get some of the heroes from like other Zelda games, and they all come together. So it was kind of like all over the place. But in this setting, it's something that we all know, and we put so much feelings into it already. So we all know about Calamity Ganon. We all know about that we needed to defeat him. We all know about what happened when Link almost died, and the princess unlocked her power to save him. So we already attached to the story, and that's what makes it feel like I'm continuing playing Breath of the Wild, but just in a different point of view to see what happened. And I think that that's a very smart move for the creator of Zelda and Nintendo, because instead of doing another Zelda game which concentrate about what happened 100 years ago, and then create another Zelda game to see, oh, okay, now this is the sequel, what's happening, they decided to go about it in this way. So basically you get another Zelda game that explains everything to a certain extent about what happened. So it makes it that Nintendo or the people that created Zelda doesn't have to make that game, because you already have what's happening. So now we're going to get Breath of the Wild 2. So in Breath of the Wild 2, from the trailer, you only see, they're walking down some kind of, I wouldn't say tomb, but it's a cave, and then they go back in, and after that they find, like, so from what it looks like, it's Ganondorf with a hand on his chest. And talking about Ganondorf, so I'm just going to sidetrack a little bit from this here. I believe that Ganondorf is the hero from 10,000 years ago. Wait, hold on. So I believe that the hero that we see here from the tapestry from 10,000 years ago, I believe that this is Ganondorf. And there's a lot of things that points towards that. For example, if you look at the princess, her hair color shows like, it's blonde, like the hair she would use. So Link, which has the same hair color as Zelda, should have the same hair color as well, and it should be shorter. But here, what you see is that you see a warrior with longer hair, and his skin looks like red brownish, which fits the Gyarados. And it's blue and it's green. So I think that's just my speculation, but I think 10,000 years ago, the hero who stood against Calamity Ganon was Ganondorf. So I know you might think, wait, that doesn't make any sense because Ganondorf is the reincarnation of Demise. But see, I always thought that the story of Ganondorf was extremely sad because you didn't choose to be who you are. It was chosen for you a long time ago, and then I know you might say, oh yeah, but you're responsible for all of your action. Yes, but for example, the original Link, he got jailed when all the land was on the floor before the goddess sent it up in the sky, which we have Skyward Sword. So the goddess, she cried when Link was mortally wounded and then he actually died. She cried because she said all his life he suffered because of her. All the hardship, it was because of her. So he could become the hero. And then she made the request for him to be reincarnated all the time. Same thing for her. So for Ganondorf being born into the Gerudo tribe and becoming their king at some point, so he was reincarnated in this way. He didn't choose this life. And so I think this is him. And I think that what happened 10,000 years ago is he came to help. And then he pulled out the sword because he could take out the sword because he was the hero. And they fought against Calamity Ganon and they won. But then something happened because they probably saw that the link between Calamity Ganon and him resonated, and then they needed to find a way to keep him or to seal him. So what happened is that they find a way to seal them off with this kind of hand right there, or they made a decision and then he was betrayed. Possibly that they find a way to betray him, and then he fought for Hyrule and then he got betrayed, and this is where he's end up. So I think it would make a really exciting story to bring out, the fact that Ganondorf is not always the bad guy, that the royal family is not always haven't always been super nice all the time. So I think it's a really, really interesting plot story. Or maybe that Link could have been born or raised with the Gerudo, even though that there's only one male every 100 years or something, and then maybe that's him, but just as a Gerudo, So it's stuff like that that really make me wonder, like, the possibility. And small spoiler. There's a character, there's a monk, those monks in Breath of the Wild, that the one that mummified and that give you the sphere every time you finish the mini dungeon. All of those monks, they were all there 10,000 years ago. And it's written that they did their part. And then after it was done, they constructed all of those shrines so that when the hero comes back, he gets to train to be ready for Calamity Ganon. See, they keep saying Calamity Ganon. They don't say Ganondorf. They say Calamity Ganon. So that's different. Maybe it's a different name for Demise or something like that. So in this game, there's a very specific character that has a description, which is very interesting. So like I said, for anyone that loved Breath of the Wild and want to get a little bit more input, I'm pretty sure you already got this game, but I do recommend you to try it. There's a demo on the Nintendo Store, so you should really, really try it. For anyone else, it's a very compelling story. Like I said, I give it a 10 out of 10. And go ahead, try it. So that's pretty much it. If you have any more questions, leave a message in the comment section down below. Subscribe and like this channel if you want me to create more content like this. Or if you have any other things you want to talk about or just some suggestions, go ahead. But that's pretty much it. Take care, guys.